Good morning and welcome back to the Toolshed. This Toolshed brought to you by Schedule Engine and the entire team at Emerson making this possible. The Toolshed is just a place we try and make it easy for you to stop by and to maybe pick up a few things to make your job easier. Who knows, maybe you learn a little something extra along the way. This morning I am so pumped to have another dear friend, someone we've known for a long time personally, Mr. Aaron Becker, president of Haller Enterprises. How are you doing this morning?
Doing great, Edward. Thanks for having me.
It's good. We know each other so long, and it's like there's lights. It's like this is kind of weird, but it's so cool because Jerry and I talk all the time about things that we've learned along the way, people we've learned it from, and a lot of the conversations, quite frankly, are like things we do different. And we get up here each week and we talk. But when you have someone who's like, I remember when you did not do that, and so it's kind of cool to have someone in here. Like we've hit all the BS flags. I think they're all gone. But I thought, man, it'd be really cool to just talk about you and your leadership, because we have worked together, sales manager, we're VP of sales, and now every day you're getting up and you're leading a 350, 400 person organization, and I'm sure you've had to learn some new skills outside your areas of expertise and comfort, and man, that's probably just a deep vein that we could follow, and I'd love to get your perspective on leadership, the good, the bad, the ugly. Is that cool?
That's real cool. So first of all, though, my memory is short, and I don't remember any of the old Eddie. I just love the new Eddie. So that's what I can say.
I'm going to get you to talk to my wife. That'd be cool.
And I think I have before. So
yeah, that's good.
That's all good.
It's good. Well, I appreciate that. You're very kind, and that's probably one of the traits. So let's talk about it. Leadership. Yeah. Let's start way back. Sales manager. Mm-hmm. What were some of the things that you felt were like really good lessons that you learned? Or like, about when you were managing a sales team, you probably, I think you had managed before, but this was a big team with a lot of pressure.
Yeah, so I would tell you that, Eddie, some of the things that we have talked about so many times is that when you enter, and I think this is really important for all new managers, when you enter this new stage in your career, particularly going from, let's say, a service tech to a service manager, or a sales rep to a sales manager, what tends to happen that I have historically seen is that you bring all of those ideas and the baggage of being in that role into the new role. And so you often think as a sales rep, or you think as a service tech, and one of the biggest challenges, biggest hurdles, particularly in that first step, is learning how to think differently about that role instead of thinking as a sales rep or a service tech.
It's so good because the jobs are different.
The jobs are different.
It's sort of like, I remember as kids talking to my siblings, and they were like, well, when I'm a parent, I'm going to let my kids eat all the sugar in the world, because you don't know what you don't know, right? And I think I've seen you, and we have talked about this a lot. There's people that can cross that shift, but there's people who really struggle with it, and it's probably not talked about often enough. And so I think it's a great lesson. And as you move, you understand your team needs. They don't need another buddy.
That's right.
They've got enough of those. They really need someone that's sort of watching the horizon. So that's cool. As you went on and you start to work with as a VP, and you've got other sales teams, you've got marketing responsibilities, you've got a lot more budget responsibilities. As a leader, how do you think about like the pressure of that and the communication style that's required? Like, did you have to grow there, or was that a skill you could sort of leverage?
I think when I look at the broader picture of leadership, a lot comes down to two things for me: transparency and communication. And it has been a commitment really for myself and even for our company in general to be probably even more transparent than sometimes is comfortable.
Yeah.
Transparency
Yeah.
can be uncomfortable when you're looking at revenue and bottom line, and overall transparency, I believe, is really important because when we look at leadership, communication is a big deal. Transparent communication, when you tie those two things together, it allows the entire company to really see, number one, where we are, where you are, but also where we need to go. And so oftentimes that allows the changes that need to be put in place to be a little bit easier to roll out.
I love what you're saying because they're both powerful on their own, but like, when you put them together, there's a humility, there's a trust. Like sometimes when you, like any relationship, when you open up and you start to be transparent, there's a trust there that the other person can understand, accept, is going to be a good recipient of that information. And it's probably, I know I've talked to leaders who are like, oh, I can't tell my team that.
Yeah.
And I imagine on the receiving end, if absent that transparency, the orders just come down. You know, we come down with the stone tablets like Moses, and we're like, "Thus saith the Lord," and like new plan. We read a new book, or we've been at a conference, and absent that, I think foundational understanding that you would get from transparent communication, I think that would feel very different.
Yeah. So this is the deal. If you are not transparent, your team is giving the answers on their own. They're coming up with what they believe is the actual numbers. They're filling in the blanks. And so for me, I believe that it's just really important to be just super transparent.
Yeah, I think I'm going to brag on you a little bit, because one of the things, you talk a lot about communication, but I think much of your communication and your desire to communicate, I think is really driven from empathy. Like you have a deep desire to care for your team and really empathize, and that's, I think, from the armchair spectator seat, it seems to drive a lot of that. Was communication something you were always good at, or do you have to work on it?
Well, it depends on who you ask. I mean, if you ask my wife Melissa, then she would probably have a little bit of a different answer than my team at Haller. But you know, I would say it's something that I have to strive to work on every day.
Right.
But I think you really raise a good point. And as I was thinking about leadership, and I don't want to. First of all, I think leadership is constant learning. And, you know, we just every day have to get up and strive to learn. Yeah. But also, as we think about where we need to start, I think that it starts with making deposits to our team. And so, you know, you and I have talked about this a lot. Like, you can't get withdrawals without making significant deposits. Yep. And so I believe each leader has the opportunity to choose why they lead. I think that the motive behind why you lead is extremely important. And I also think that kind of tends to reflect on how transparent of communication you can have. And you know, we've just made a commitment at Haller to make sure that when we look at leaders and leadership, that we really want to make sure that the motives are right. And so in order to just show that, we believe that you have to make deposits to your team. And so how do we take care of each other? How do we make sure that we're showing empathy, we're understanding? And when you do that and you truly care, then you have the ability to challenge people, to talk to them about uncomfortable things, to allow them to grow to their true full potential, which I actually don't believe you can get there by just making deposits. You actually have to then really start to withdraw some challenging conversations once in a while.
I love so much of what you're saying, and it makes me think of, you know, Jerry loves that nursery of talent idea where, you know, you take care of talent, but sometimes you help shape the plant a little bit, right? So I'm familiar with Haller, and I know their vision every day is to enrich lives, but I also know the values. You spend a lot of time talking about values, and as I'm hearing you talk about, you know, being intentional about the leadership qualities that are promoted, I think about how the program where it's peer-to-peer recognition for values, because it's more than just talk, right? And you talk about motives, and as I hear you talk, I'm thinking about like all the peers that are recognizing the values that we celebrate that happens every day at Haller, and that doesn't happen by accident, right?
Yeah, there is intentionality that I believe you have to that you have to bring into play in order to really see something grow. Right. And so, through our Values in Action program, we just allow each of our team to recognize other team members whenever they live out one of our core values. And I believe that peer-to-peer recognition is probably one of the greatest ways to show appreciation and respect for others across the organization.
I love it. One of my favorite definitions of culture is simply that which you reward or punish in an organization. And I can't think of a more powerful way from peer to peer. So let's just wrap up the conversation. What's the stuff no one talks about in leadership? Like, what's the tough part? Like, like everyone talks about leadership in this vaunted sort of capital L sort of like arrival thing, but I hear you talk, and I think much more of the small L, serving, doing, grinding. What are some of the things that you wish people talk more about?
I think as a leader, people tend to take on a lot of responsibility for things around them, right? And so, even for me, what I need to constantly remind myself is that you don't have control of everything that's around you. Right. In fact, you don't have control of really anything around you. So, but just so often, it feels like you should be able to. And I think the ability to really just allow the things around you to happen, but set yourself up to make sure that you have a foundation for success, and then know that there's going to be bumps in the road. There's going to be speed blocks. There's going to be roadblocks. So that's I would say that the ability to get past the challenges and not just self-reflect and say, that's my responsibility is really, really challenging to do, but it's a important leadership fundamental.
I think so much about what you're saying there, and because you have a large team and they're doing diverse things that are maybe not your background. The Haller team does construction, they do commercial, they do a lot of things. I'm reminded of Simon Sinek in his Infinite Game. He talks about like management. You get promoted by being good at what you do, and when you get managed, you tend to manage the way the people are doing it. And what he says is you're not responsible for how they do it. You're responsible for the people in your charge. And it really, it's scale. And if any organization is looking to scale, it really is going to take a lot of people. And there's something that I think you've done, which is release and then hold accountable, like release, empower people. We talk a lot about that. So, man, we could probably talk about this for a long time, but I know you're busy, so I appreciate you stopping by. It's been really good. Next time we'll have to do it without the cameras and the lights. Maybe I need to take a leaf out our buddy Jerry's book and do it on the golf course, but this is probably why I didn't
You know what?
You've been trying to fix that swing.
Yeah, it looked good.
You've been trying to fix that swing for 15 years. I'm so glad you're here. Thanks for stopping by. It really means a lot.
Eddie, thanks for all you do, not just for Haller, but for our entire industry, really, in general.
Well, super grateful. As always, we're here at the Toolshed, sharing knowledge from our peers and our friends, and can't think of a better way of doing this than in the Schedule Engine Toolshed, the place to come and make every job just a little bit easier when we learn nuggets like that, and then also not made possible without the team at Emerson sponsoring this and partnering with it. And so we're so grateful for the entire team at Emerson. Thank you for all you're doing. It's been great. We'll definitely need to do this again. Please, as you're going about your work, be good, do good, and we will see you out there. Thank you so much.